The alarm screamed in my ear before my coffee had even cooled. I dropped the mug, and hot liquid splashed across the metal floor of the bridge. My name is Captain Alina Ward, and 3 seconds ago I was bored out of my mind on the quietest patrol shift of my entire career. 3 seconds later, my sensors were showing something that should not exist. A hole had opened in empty space. Not a small one. It was wider than 3 cities stacked together, and it glowed with a sick blue light that hurt my eyes even through the filtered screens. My ship, the Perseverance, was parked near the edge of our solar system, far past Neptune, watching for rocks and dust and nothing interesting. Now this. I hit the general alert. My crew of 40 came running from every corner of the ship. My first officer, Daniel Pierce, slid into the seat beside me with his jacket only half on. His face went pale when he saw the screen. "Captain, what am I looking at?" "I have no idea," I said, "but something is coming through it." Ships started falling out of the hole, small ones maybe the size of delivery trucks. They were shaped like curved leaves, with soft edges and colors that shimmered like soap bubbles. They were also falling apart. I could see black scorch marks on their hulls, pieces breaking off, and trails of gas leaking into space. These ships were dying. I counted 30 of them, then 40, then 60. They tumbled through the hole like leaves in a storm, spinning, colliding with each other, struggling to fire weak thrusters. One ship simply broke into 3 pieces right in front of my camera. My stomach turned. "Are they attacking us?" Daniel asked. "If they are, they're doing a terrible job of it." None of the ships were firing weapons. None of them were even facing us in a threatening way. They were running. That much I could tell just by watching. Whatever was behind that hole had chased them here, and they were all that was left. My communications officer, a young man named Henry Cole, spoke up with a shaking voice. "Captain, I'm picking up a signal. They're trying to talk to us." "Put it through." The voice that filled the bridge was not like any voice I had ever heard. It sounded like wind moving through glass chimes, like singing mixed with whispering. The words came through our translator broken and uneven, but I understood enough. "Please, please hide us. They will find us. They will find us here." I looked at Daniel. He looked at me. Every person on the bridge had gone completely silent. First contact. I was having first contact with an alien species, and they were begging me for help. "This is Captain Ward of the human ship Perseverance," I said slowly. "Who are you? Who is chasing you?" There was a pause. Then the voice came back, softer this time, almost breaking. "We are the Valeth. We meant to travel to a safe place, but our navigator made a mistake. We are sorry. We did not mean to come here, please. Our children are dying." Children? My whole body went cold. I stood up from my chair. "Henry, open a channel to Earth Command. Priority 1. Daniel, prepare the cargo bay for visitors, all of them. I want medical teams ready, oxygen tanks, water, blankets, anything we have." Daniel stared at me. "Captain, we have no orders for this. Earth Command hasn't even answered yet. We don't know what these beings are. We don't know what they breathe. We don't know if they carry sickness." "I know all that," I said. "And I also know that if we leave them out there, they will die. Every single one of them, including the children." He was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded and got to work. The Valeth ships were too damaged to dock properly, so we had to send out shuttles to bring them in. It took 2 hours. I watched from the bridge as our pilots pulled one broken ship after another into our cargo bay. Each one spilled out dozens of small, trembling figures covered in soft feathers that shimmered blue and silver. They were no taller than my waist. Their large eyes filled half their faces, and those eyes were full of fear. I went down to meet them. I did not know what else to do. The cargo bay smelled strange, like warm rain and something sweet. The Valeth stood in tight groups, holding each other, trying to calm their little ones. One of them stepped forward. She was older than the rest, her feathers dulled with age but her eyes still sharp and bright. "I am Thesira," she said through the translator. "I speak for what remains of my people. You are humans." "Yes," I said. "My name is Alina. Welcome aboard my ship." She looked at me for a long time, then something wet slid down her feathered cheek. Tears. She was crying. "You did not have to save us," she whispered. "No one has ever saved us before." I did not know what to say, so I just knelt down and offered her my hand. She took it with her small, soft fingers, and she held on tight. Henry's voice crackled through my earpiece. "Captain, Earth Command is responding, but also I'm picking up something else, something big, coming toward our system from the same direction the hole opened." "How big?" "Captain, I think you should come see this yourself." I gave Thesira's hand one more squeeze and ran back to the bridge. When I saw the screen, my breath caught in my throat. A ship had appeared just inside the edge of our solar system. It was massive, longer than a small city, covered in sharp angles and dark metal. It was not leaking. It was not damaged. It was hunting. "They're scanning us," Henry said. "They're scanning every ship in range." A new signal came through. This voice was different, deep, smooth, and cold as ice. It did not need a translator. It spoke in clean English. "Human vessel, you have taken what is ours. Return the refugees immediately, and we will allow your primitive species to continue existing. You have 1 hour to comply." Daniel looked at me with wide eyes. "Captain, what do we do?" I thought about Thesira's small hand in mine. I thought about the children I had seen in the cargo bay, the way they clung to their parents, the way they flinched at every sound. I thought about 60 broken ships that had fallen into our system by mistake, looking for safety. I thought about what kind of people we would be if we gave them back. "Henry," I said quietly, "open a channel to Earth, tell them everything, and tell them I need an answer fast." And the alien ship. I looked at the screen, at the massive hunter sitting at the edge of our home, waiting to take what it believed it owned. "Tell them nothing yet." The clock started ticking. 1 hour, 60 minutes to decide what humanity would become. I had already decided for myself. Earth Command took 22 minutes to respond. In that time, I paced the bridge like a caged animal. Daniel kept watching the countdown timer. Henry kept his hands pressed against his control panel to stop them from shaking. The huge alien ship at the edge of our system had not moved, but every few minutes it would sweep us with another scan, and each scan felt like being looked at by something that did not see us as people. Thesira came up to the bridge. She moved quietly, her small feet making almost no sound on the metal floor. I turned and saw her standing near the door, her large eyes taking in everything. "You should be resting," I told her. "I cannot rest," she said. "Not while the Korvaxi wait outside, not while your decision has not yet been made." "The Korvaxi, is that what they are called?" She nodded slowly. "The Korvaxi Dominion. They have been ruling this part of the galaxy for over 400 years. They believe all species exist only to serve them or to be crushed by them. My people were neither useful nor threatening, so they chose to erase us. Not because we did anything wrong, only because we existed and did not bow." My hands curled into fists at my sides. "How many of your people are left?" "In these ships, 1,240. On this vessel, 210 after we lost some on the journey. Everywhere else in the galaxy, we do not know. Perhaps a few hidden groups, perhaps none. We were one of the last free worlds. Now there are no more." I looked at her, really looked at her. This old woman, if I could call her that, had watched her whole world die. She had led her people through a hole in space hopping to find safety, and instead she had found me. A human she had never heard of, commanding a ship she did not understand, trapped between her and the ones who wanted her dead. "Thesira," I said, "I want you to know something. I have not received my orders yet, but if Earth tells me to hand you over, I will not do it." Her eyes went wide. "Captain, you would defy your own people for us." "I would defy anyone who asked me to send children back to be hunted." She stepped closer and placed her small hand on my arm. The feathers there were softer than I expected, like touching silk. "Then whatever happens," she said, My people will remember you, even if only for a short time." Before I could answer, Henry called out from his station. "Captain, Earth Command is on the line. The United Nations Secretary General himself." "Put him through, main screen." The face that appeared was tired but sharp. Secretary General William Hart had been in office for 6 years. He had dealt with wars, famines, and climate disasters. Now he was dealing with aliens, and somehow he looked calm. "Captain Ward, I want to start by saying that what you have done in the last 3 hours will be studied by historians for the next 1,000 years. You made first contact with 2 alien species. You took in refugees without orders, and you are currently being threatened by a hostile fleet. Is that correct?" "Yes, sir." "Good. Then let me make this simple for you. Every nation on Earth has been on an emergency call for the last 19 minutes. For the first time in the history of our species, we have reached a unanimous agreement." I held my breath. "You will not surrender those refugees. Not one of them, not one feather. Every fleet we have is being mobilized as we speak. Mars, the Jovian colonies, the belt mining ships, everything. Captain Ward, you will hold your position, and you will protect those people until help arrives. Are my orders clear?" Relief hit me so hard I almost sat down. "Yes, Mr. Secretary, clear as sunlight." "One more thing, Captain. When you speak to these Korvaxi, you speak for all of humanity. Make sure they understand who they have chosen to threaten." The screen went dark. The bridge was silent for a long moment. Then Daniel let out a long breath. "Did that just happen?" he asked. "Did Earth just agree on something, all of them?" "It happened," I said. I turned to Thesira. Her hand was still on my arm, but now she was trembling, not with fear, with something else. "Your leaders," she whispered, "they did not even hesitate." "They hesitated," I said, "for 19 minutes. That is a very long time for humans to agree on anything, but they did." She laughed. It was the first laugh I had heard from her, and it sounded like tiny bells. Then she was crying again and laughing and crying, and I realized she did not know what to do with this feeling. Hope, maybe, or the shock of not being alone anymore. "Henry," I said, "open a channel to the Korvaxi ship. I want to answer their demand." "Captain, the hour is not up yet." "I know, open the channel." He nodded and tapped his panel. A moment later, the cold voice filled the bridge again. "Human vessel, you still have 38 minutes to comply with our demands. Are you surrendering early?" "This is Captain Alina Ward of Earth," I said. My voice came out steadier than I felt. "I am answering your demand now so you can save yourself some time. The refugees in my care are under the protection of the human species. They will not be returned to you. Not now. Not ever." There was a long pause. When the voice came back, it no longer sounded amused. It sounded confused, as if I had spoken in a language it did not understand. "You are refusing. You, a species that has not even left its own star system, are refusing the Korvaxi Dominion." "That is correct." "Captain, I will give you one last chance to reconsider. Our warship carries enough weapons to turn your planet into dust. We have conquered species far more advanced than yours. We have ended civilizations older than your entire bloodline. Do you understand what you are doing?" "I understand perfectly," I said, "and I am still refusing." Another pause, then a short, sharp laugh. "Very well, human. We will see how brave you are when our fleet arrives." The channel closed. "Fleet," Daniel said. He said fleet. Henry's face had gone white. "Captain, I'm picking up new signals from the edge of the system. More ships coming through. Not through the hole, through normal space. They are using some kind of faster-than-light travel that we cannot track." "How many?" 12 capital ships so far, all larger than the first one, and more signatures forming behind them. Thesira stepped forward. "Captain, I must tell you something. The ship you spoke with is an advanced scout. What comes next is their standard response fleet. 12 warships, each with their own smaller fighters. They will arrive together. They will attack together. They do not bargain." And after that, her eyes lowered. If the response fleet fails, the Dominion sends the true armada, 200 ships, perhaps more, but that has never been needed. The response fleet has never failed. It's about to, I said. I turned to my crew. They were all watching me, scared but steady. These were the people I had trained with, shared meals with, argued with over coffee. They were scientists and pilots and engineers, not warriors. But today, that did not matter. Listen to me, I said. We are not alone. Earth is sending every ship they have. Mars is sending their defense fleet. The colonies are sending their mining ships. They will turn their rock cutters into weapons if they have to. Help is coming. How long, Captain? Daniel asked. The nearest fleet can be here in 4 hours. The main forces, 6 to 8. And the Korvaxi? Henry checked his board. Their response fleet will be in attack range in 90 minutes. I did the math. We were going to have to hold for at least 2.5 hours with just our ship and whatever I could scrape together. I looked at Thesira. Your people, are any of them fighters? She shook her head slowly. We are archivists, musicians, teachers. We have never built a weapon in our history. Good, then keep your people safe. Take them to the center of the ship, as deep as you can go. Make a song for your children so they are not afraid. Leave the fighting to us. She bowed her head. May your ancestors watch over you, Captain Ward. They will have to hurry, I said. We are about to be very busy. She left the bridge. I turned to my crew. All hands to battle stations. Daniel, get me every weapon we have online, including the ones we never use. Henry, I want a constant feed to Earth and every Allied ship. Let them see everything. Let all of humanity see what is coming. Captain, Henry asked. If we lose today, I want the rest of our species to know exactly who did it, and I want them to remember why. The ship came alive around me. Alarms switched to combat mode. Screens lit up with weapon readouts. Outside, the stars watched and waited. 90 minutes. I sat in my chair and placed my hands on the arms. I thought about my mother back in Oregon who had begged me not to take this posting. I thought about my younger brother who had made me promise to come home for his wedding next summer. I thought about Thesira's hand in mine, the weight of it, the warmth. I thought about what the Secretary General had said. You speak for all of humanity. Bring them on, I whispered to the empty space on my screen. Bring all of them. The hour counted down. The Korvaxi fleet arrived exactly when Henry said they would. 12 massive warships dropped out of their faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, arranged like the points of a cruel crown. Each one was more than 5 times the size of my Perseverance. They had armor thick enough to shrug off missiles. They had energy weapons that could slice through asteroid belts. They had fighters in their bellies, hundreds of them, waiting to swarm us. And all we had was a research ship, a handful of patrol boats from Mars that had arrived 12 minutes before the Korvaxi, and a promise that more help was on the way. Captain, the lead Korvaxi ship is hailing us, Henry said. Let them speak, but do not respond. The cold voice filled the bridge one more time. Human, your primitive ships are entertaining, but they are nothing. Stand down now, and perhaps we will only take the refugees instead of your entire species. This is your final offer. I said nothing, I only watched the screen. After a long silence, the voice came back, and this time there was something new in it. Anger. Very well, then watch what happens to those who defy us. The first shot came from the lead ship. A long, bright line of energy crossed space and struck one of the Mars patrol boats. The small ship did not even have time to move. It simply broke apart, pieces scattering like dropped glass. My heart clenched. Captain Rosa Martinez had been on that boat. I had spoken to her over the radio less than an hour ago. She had been laughing, saying how this was the most interesting shift of her life. Now she was gone. All ships open fire, I ordered. Daniel, bring us into attack position. Henry, launch every drone and missile we have. The Perseverance lurched forward. Our forward cannons, which we used mostly for clearing asteroids, fired in bursts. Our shots hit the shields of the lead Korvaxi ship and barely left a mark. The shields shimmered blue and absorbed everything we had. "Their shields are too strong," Daniel said. "We cannot get through." "Then we find another way," I said. "Henry, get me the mining ships, the ones coming from the belt. Where are they?" 40 minutes out, Captain. Tell them to bring rocks, big ones, any asteroid they can push. I want a cloud of debris flying at the Korvaxi fleet at high speed." Henry looked at me with understanding in his eyes. "Their shields can block weapons, but rocks moving fast enough have no weapon signature for the shields to recognize. They will just hit." "Exactly, go." The battle became a dance of death. The Korvaxi fighters swarmed out of their warships, hundreds of small deadly craft with weapons that tore through our patrol boats one by one. We lost 3 more ships in the first 10 minutes. My communications were filled with the voices of pilots I knew, calling for help I could not send, and then going silent. Daniel maneuvered the Perseverance like she was a fighter, not a research vessel. He put her through turns and dives the designers had never imagined. We danced between Korvaxi fighters, firing our small cannons, dodging their beams, losing chunks of hull plating but staying alive. "Captain, we have incoming," Henry said. "From behind us, friendly signals, a lot of them." I turned. On the rear screen, I saw the most beautiful sight of my life. The Jovian fleet had arrived. 27 heavy cruisers from the Jupiter colonies, each one built to survive the crushing radiation of the gas giant. They were tougher than anything Earth had ever built, and they were mad. Their commander, Admiral Gregory Shaw, had lost his daughter on the first Mars patrol boat the Korvaxi had destroyed. His voice came through the fleet channel cold and hard. "Captain Ward, this is Admiral Shaw. We heard there was a fight happening. Mind if we join you?" "Admiral, you are the most welcome guests I have ever had. Target the lead warship. All guns." The Jovian cruisers opened fire with weapons we had never used in combat. Long-range railguns that fired solid metal slugs at nearly the speed of light. The slugs did what our energy weapons could not. They punched through the Korvaxi shields with raw force, smashing into the armor underneath. The lead warship shuddered and began to vent gas into space. "They are hurting them," Daniel shouted. "Keep hitting them, do not stop." The battle turned in a way the Korvaxi had not expected. Their shields were designed to stop energy and plasma, things they had learned to counter over centuries of fighting advanced species. They had never fought anyone who used simple iron moving very fast. Our ancestors had invented cannons 500 years ago, and we had just turned that ancient idea into a weapon against a galactic empire. But we were still outnumbered. The Korvaxi fighters swarmed the Jovian cruisers, tearing at their hulls, and 2 of the cruisers exploded within minutes. Admiral Shaw's voice never wavered. He kept directing his ships, kept targeting the biggest threats, kept fighting even as his own ship took hit after hit. "Captain," Henry said, "the mining ships are coming in. I have them on long range." "Show me." The screen switched, and I saw them. 43 mining ships from the belt, huge, ugly, slow machines that looked nothing like warships. They were used for breaking apart asteroids and hauling rock to the inner planets. Their captains had welded whatever they could find to their hulls and were dragging enormous chunks of asteroid behind them on magnetic tethers. The lead miner's captain, a rough woman named Polly Brooks, opened a channel. Her voice was calm and amused. "Captain Ward, this is the Rock Crusher. We heard you needed some rocks thrown. We brought about 11 million tons of them. How would you like them served?" I almost laughed. "Polly, can you throw them at that big ship in the middle of the formation?" "Give me 5 minutes, Captain. We will throw them right down their throat." The mining ships lined up. Their magnetic tethers spun faster and faster, swinging the asteroids in giant circles. Then, one by one, they released. Huge rocks, some the size of small mountains, flew through space at incredible speeds, heading straight for the Korvaxi fleet. The Korvaxi saw them coming. Their shields did nothing to stop them. The shields registered the rocks as passive debris and let them through. Then the rocks hit. The first asteroid smashed into a Korvaxi warship amidships. The entire vessel bent in the middle, split open, and stopped moving. The second rock tore the wing off another ship. The third punched clean through a cruiser and came out the other side, still flying. I heard the Korvaxi commander's voice on an open channel. He had forgotten to close it, or he wanted us to hear. He was screaming orders to his fleet, his smooth, cold voice now sharp and panicked. What are they? What weapons are these? Break formation, break formation. Captain, we have more friends coming, Henry said. The Earth Home Fleet just dropped out of FTL. They are here. The sky filled with human ships, dozens of them. Warships that had been built over the last 10 years during a nervous time when Earth had expected its own wars. Ships that had never fired a shot in real battle. Now they poured fire into the Korvaxi fleet. The lead Korvaxi ship, the one I had first spoken to, tried to pull back. Admiral Shaw did not let it. His cruiser rammed it, just drove straight into its side, tearing a hole in it big enough for a small moon. Both ships tumbled out of control. Admiral Shaw, report, I shouted. His voice came back, weaker now. My ship is done, Captain, but so is theirs. I think my daughter would be proud. Tell my wife I love her. Admiral, your escape pods. Already launching the crew. I'm staying to make sure we take this ship all the way down. Admiral. Give them nothing but dust, Captain. Shaw out. The lead Korvaxi warship exploded in a silent flash that lit up our whole sector. Admiral Shaw's cruiser went with it. I stood up. Every person on my bridge stood up. We did not say anything. We just stood in silence for a few seconds. Then we got back to work. The Korvaxi fleet was broken. 3 warships tried to retreat, firing everything they had to cover their escape. Our combined fleet, Earth, Mars, Jovian, and the mining ships, chased them to the edge of our system. Only 3 made it out. 9 capital ships had been destroyed. Hundreds of their fighters were drifting dead in space. We had won. But the cost had been terrible. Over 400 humans were gone. 11 of our ships, 2 of the Mars patrol boats, Admiral Shaw and his cruiser, pilots and engineers and officers I had known by name. The bridge was quiet. My crew had sunk into their chairs, exhausted, shaking. Henry had tears on his face and was pretending he did not. Daniel looked at me with red eyes. We did it, Captain. We did something, I said, but this is not over. I walked off the bridge and went down to the cargo bay. Thesira was waiting for me at the door, her small face full of questions. I told her what had happened. I told her about Admiral Shaw. I told her about the 400 humans who had given their lives so her people could live. She listened in silence. Then she knelt on the floor and pressed her forehead to the metal. Captain, she whispered, my people have not felt this in 400 years, not since before the Korvaxi came for us. Do you know what we have not felt? What? Hope. She looked up at me, her large eyes shining. And now I must tell you the worst thing. The response fleet has fallen. No response fleet has ever fallen before. The Dominion will not accept this. They will send the true armada, 200 ships, perhaps 300. They will come to make an example of your species. They will come to erase you from history. I looked down at her. I was tired in a way I had never been tired before. My bones ached. My heart ached worse. How long until they arrive? 3 months, perhaps 4. It takes time to gather the armada. 3 months, I repeated. I thought about my mother in Oregon, my brother's wedding, the 400 families who would soon receive news they could never recover from. I thought about the Valith children in the cargo bay behind her, who were now safe for the first time in their short lives. Then we have 3 months to get ready, I said, and we are not going to waste a single one. The weeks after the battle moved faster than any time in my life. Earth stopped being a quiet planet full of arguments. Overnight, it became something else, something we had never been before. One single people with one single goal. Every factory that had been making cars or kitchen appliances was switched to making ships and weapons. Every school taught children about the Valeth and the Korvaxi. Every news channel ran the footage of the battle on a loop, showing Admiral Shaw's ramming attack, showing Polly Brooks throwing asteroids, showing my small research vessel refusing to move. I was pulled back to Earth for meetings I had never expected to attend in my entire career. World leaders shook my hand. Engineers asked me questions about what I had seen. Scientists wanted to examine every piece of Valeth technology we had recovered from their broken ships. But the strangest thing of all was what happened out among the stars. Word spread fast, faster than we had thought possible. The Korvaxi Dominion had control of the quantum communication relays that sent messages across the galaxy, but they did not have total control. Small species, hidden species, broken species with their own secret networks all heard the same impossible news. A response fleet of the Korvaxi had been defeated by a species no one had heard of, on a world that was not even supposed to be capable of space travel yet. And something else had spread. The footage of me speaking to the Korvaxi commander. The moment I refused to hand over the refugees. Someone on Earth had broadcasted across every frequency we could reach, and the Valeth had helped translate it into 40 different languages I had never heard of. Now, across the stars, there were beings watching me say the same words over and over. They will not be returned to you, not now, not ever. 1 month after the battle, the first ship arrived. It came in quietly, broadcasting peace signals in a dozen languages. It did not try to hide. It simply approached our system and asked permission to enter. I was back on the Perseverance by then, which had been repaired and upgraded, and I took the call myself. The being on the screen looked nothing like a Valeth. It had a long neck, 3 eyes arranged in a triangle on its face, and skin that looked like polished stone. Its voice was deep and rough. Human Captain, my name is Valand of the Mirn. My world was destroyed by the Korvaxi 103 of your years ago. We are a scattered people drifting with no home. I have brought with me 6 ships, 2,000 of my people. We heard what you did. We ask with no right to ask, only with hope if you would allow us to stand near your world. Not inside it, not on it, only near. So we can say when the Dominion comes that we did not stand alone. I stared at him. You are asking to help us fight. I am asking for the honor of dying beside people who would save strangers. I did not know what to say. I told him to wait and I called Earth. 3 days later, we accepted the Mirn. They set up their ships in a loose formation near Mars, and their engineers began working with ours. They had weapons we did not, plasma cannons and energy shields far more advanced than anything humans had built. In exchange, they wanted nothing but a place to stand. 2 weeks later, another fleet came. These were the Siltari, a small people with skin like water and bodies that flowed when they walked. They had been nomadic for 200 years, since the Dominion had taken their homeworld. They brought 12 ships and asked the same question. Then came the Okun, whose children the Korvaxi hunted for sport. They brought 3 massive ships, each one hollow inside, each one packed with beings who had nowhere else to go. Then the Jeth, then the Palori, then the Morn and the Vesh and the Koketh, 20 different species by the end of the 2nd month, all of them broken, all of them hiding, all of them hearing the same story and coming to see if it was true. I met their leaders in a conference hall on Mars that had been set up just for this purpose. The hall had been built in 3 weeks. Every species had its own section, with air and gravity and lighting adjusted to their needs. Thesira sat beside me during every meeting, translating not just words but meanings, explaining to me why a certain Morn leader flinched when I raised my voice, why a Siltari elder refused to drink water from certain cups. One afternoon, after a long meeting with the leaders of 7 different species, I sat outside on a Mars balcony with Thesira. The sun was setting red and huge behind the city domes, and the dust storms were far away. Captain, she said quietly, I must tell you something. Tell me. In all the stories my people have recorded across 10,000 years of history, there is no record of a species doing what yours is doing. Not once. Not a single time. Older, wiser species than yours have ruled the galaxy, and none of them ever opened their doors to strangers this way. The galaxy has forgotten kindness, Captain, and you are reminding it. I looked at her small face, her bright eyes, the soft feathers that had lost much of their fear and were now glowing again. We are not special, Thesira. We fight among ourselves. We have done bad things to each other throughout our history. We are not wise. No, she agreed. You are not wise, but you are something else. Something the galaxy has needed for a long time. What? Stubborn. I laughed. She laughed too. It was a good moment, one I would remember later when things became darker. By the end of the second month, we had 23 allied species gathering in our system. Ships filled the space between Earth and Mars. The sky at night was no longer just stars. It was stars and the lights of foreign fleets shining like new constellations. Children on Earth pointed up and named them: the Palori Lights, the Okun Cloud, the Valith Line. Admiral Shaw's daughter, it turned out, had a younger brother named Martin. He was 15 years old, and he had learned about what his father did during the battle. He wrote me a letter. He asked if he could enlist in our new space defense force early. He said he wanted to fly like his father had. I wrote back and told him to finish school first, but I also told him that his father had saved thousands of lives, and the whole galaxy knew his name now. I do not know if that made him feel better. I hope it did. The factories of Earth had built 40 new warships in those 2 months. Small ones, fast ones, designed from what we had learned fighting the Korvaxi. Solid metal ammunition, multi-layer shields, emergency escape systems. Each ship carried a crew trained for this new kind of war. The Jovian shipyards had built 15 more heavy cruisers, based on the ships that had arrived just in time for the first battle. Bigger this time, stronger, and with something new, a weapon the Mirn had shared with us, called a disruption lance. It could cut through Korvaxi shields with one focused beam. The mining ships of the belt had been rebuilt as dedicated war platforms. Their tethers were longer now. They could sling bigger asteroids and they could do it faster. Mars had built its own defense platforms, huge stations that floated in orbit, bristling with weapons from 3 different species. We had done more in 10 weeks than our species had done in the last 200 years, and we were still not ready. 3 weeks before the Dominion Armada was due to arrive, I sat in another meeting with the species leaders. Valand of the Mirn had been chosen as the voice of the coalition when dealing with the Korvaxi. He stood in the center of the hall and addressed all of us. "Friends," he said, "we have built ships, we have trained pilots, we have shared technology and lost our old hatreds for each other. That is good. But I must ask each of you a question now because the answer will decide everything." The room went quiet. "When the Dominion comes," he said, "they will be stronger than anything we have seen. They will have 200 warships, perhaps 300. They will bring their elite units. They will bring their cruelty. And they will land on Earth if they break through our fleet. If that happens, the human species who welcomed us all will be ended. Are we willing to die, not just to protect ourselves, but to protect them? Are we willing to put our ships in front of theirs, our bodies in front of theirs?" One by one, the leaders of 23 species stood. Each one said the same word in their own language. Thesira translated them all, and every translation was the same. "Yes." I stood last. I looked around at creatures I could not have imagined 4 months ago. Beings with fur and feathers and scales and skin like flowing water. Beings with 2 arms or 6. Beings whose voices were music and whose tears were different colors. They were all looking at me, not because I was their leader, but because this had started with me. Because a hole had opened in space above my ship. And I had made a choice. "We will stand," I said, "all of us together." That night I walked through the Mars sanctuary city, the one we had built for the Valith. I watched their children playing in a garden of strange plants they had brought with them. I watched Thesira speaking with a young Valith mother, whose little one had been born just last week, the first Valeth child born in safety in over a year. The baby had eyes that reflected the city lights like mirrors. I thought about Earth, about my mother, about my brother's wedding which he had postponed until this was over, one way or another. I thought about Admiral Shaw and Polly Brooks and Henry and Daniel and all the others who would stand with me when the Armada came. 3 weeks, that was all we had left. I touched Thesira's shoulder as I passed. She looked up and smiled. The smile was small, tired, but it was real. "Captain," she said, "what will happen will happen, but whatever comes, my people will remember this time. This time when the galaxy was full of enemies and we were given a garden on a red world. This time when stubborn humans chose to fight for us. We will remember." 3 weeks, Thesira. 3 weeks, she agreed. Let us make them count. I walked back to my shuttle and flew up to my ship. The stars above Mars were bright and full of the lights of Allied fleets. I did not look away from them until I had docked with the Perseverance, and even then, I kept thinking about them. The Armada was coming. We were ready to meet it. The Dominion Armada arrived sooner than expected. 3 weeks turned into 2 weeks and 4 days. Long-range sensors picked them up in the early morning of a Tuesday, Earth time, and Henry's voice on the Fleet Communications channel was the first thing that woke me from a short, restless sleep. "Captain, they are here." I was on the bridge of the Perseverance within 10 minutes. My ship had been upgraded with everything the Coalition had to offer: new shields from the Mirn, plasma weapons from the Palori, a disruption lance from the Jovian shipyards. She was not a research ship anymore. She was a warrior, and she was leading a fleet. The screen showed them, not 12 ships, not 100, 237 warships moving in a tight formation that looked like a spear pointed at our system. Behind them came transport ships, supply ships, and something else. Something huge. "Captain, what is that?" Daniel asked, pointing to the massive shape at the back of the formation. Thesira, who was now a permanent part of my bridge crew, stepped forward. Her feathers went dark. She had not looked that afraid since the first day we met. "Captain, that is the Dominion command ship, the Eternal Fist. It is 15 kilometers long. It has never been defeated in battle. The Dominion High Commander himself must be aboard." "How often does he come to battles personally?" "In 400 years of records, only 9 times. He comes when a world must be completely erased. He comes when a message must be sent to the whole galaxy." I stared at the screen. "He is here for us." "Yes, Captain." I opened the fleet channel. My voice went out to every ship in the Coalition, every Allied commander, every human pilot. "This is Captain Alina Ward. I am going to speak now, and I want every species in listening range to hear me. I want every ship in our enemy's fleet to hear me. I want the galaxy to hear me." Henry nodded. "We are broadcasting on all frequencies, Captain, including the ones the Dominion uses. They cannot block it." I took a deep breath. "To the Dominion High Commander, to every species watching from hidden places, to every world that has been crushed under the Korvaxi boot, to every child who has been told that resistance is hopeless, listen to me." The words came from somewhere deep in my chest. I had not planned them. They were just there. My species is young. We are not wise. We are not the greatest civilization in the galaxy. We have fought each other for thousands of years. We have done things we are ashamed of. We are not the heroes of your stories. But we learned something in our short and loud history. We learned that the measure of a people is not how strong they are. It is not how old they are. It is not how clever they are. The measure of a people is who they protect when it costs them everything. The Valeth came to us by accident. We could have turned them away. We could have handed them over and kept our quiet little corner of the galaxy. We chose not to. We chose them. And when the Dominion came to punish us for that choice, other species came to stand beside us. They chose us. And now, together, we stand against the Dominion. Commander of the Eternal Fist, you may break our fleet. You may reach our world, you may even destroy our species, but you will not do it without a fight, and every other species in the galaxy is watching. They are watching to see if you can be stopped. They are watching to see if there is hope. And whatever happens here today, we have already given them that hope. That is something you cannot take back. That is something you cannot erase. So come, bring your armada, bring your high commander, bring your 400 years of conquest. We are here, and we are not moving. I closed the channel. The bridge was silent. Thesira was crying, but so was every other alien leader I could see on the fleet screens. Valand of the Mirn had his hand over his heart. The Siltari ambassador was holding his face in his hands. Daniel turned to me, his eyes wet. "Captain, that was the best speech I have ever heard." "It was not a speech," I said. "It was a promise." The Dominion did not respond. They simply advanced. The battle began at noon, Earth time. Our fleet, 340 ships strong from 24 different species, met the Armada in the outer reaches of our system. The combined firepower of both sides lit up the sky so brightly that people on Earth could see flashes during the day. The Korvaxi ships were stronger than anything we had faced before. Their shields shrugged off our older weapons. Their beams tore through our lighter ships in seconds. We lost 14 vessels in the first 10 minutes, 7 human and 7 from our allies. But the coalition had prepared. The Mirn ships took the front lines, absorbing hits with their heavy shields. The Palori ships darted in and out of enemy formations, striking fast and retreating. The mining ships had evolved into long-range platforms, flinging asteroids with deadly accuracy. And the disruption lances worked. The Jovian cruisers, 11 of them now equipped with the new weapon, targeted the largest Dominion ships. One lance could cut a hole through any shield. Combined with our solid ammunition, we were breaking through in ways the Korvaxi had not seen. The Eternal Fist sat at the back of the Dominion formation, not entering the battle directly, directing her fleet like a chess master. She was surrounded by 12 elite warships, her personal guard. Every attempt to get close to her was cut down. 3 hours into the battle, my perseverance had taken heavy damage. One side of my hull was venting atmosphere. 2 of my weapons were offline. We had lost 15 crew members, but we were still fighting. "Captain," Henry called, "Valand is hailing us." "Put him through." The Mirn leader's face appeared, bloody but focused. "Captain Ward, the Eternal Fist must fall. If the High Commander escapes, the Dominion will return with a larger armada. We must end this now." "How?" "My people have a tradition. When a ship cannot be beaten by its weapons, its captain gives it as a weapon. I have coordinated with 6 other allied captains. We will charge the Eternal Fist together. We will break her elite guard, and one of us will reach her." I felt cold. "Valand, you are asking to die." "I am asking for the honor of ending this, Captain. My homeworld was destroyed. My children were destroyed. My wife was destroyed. I have lived these 100 years only to see the Dominion fall. Give me this." I could not answer for a moment. Then I nodded. "Valand, it is yours. And when the history of this day is written, your name will be the loudest in it." "Thank you, Captain. Tell the Valeth children that the Mirn stood with them." "I will." The 7 ships began their charge. They broke formation and drove straight through the heart of the Dominion Armada, taking hits from every direction. The first ship fell at the halfway point, its engines gone. The second fell trying to shield the others from a beam. The third, fourth, and fifth ships broke through the elite guard, firing every weapon they had. The sixth ship, a small Palori cruiser, drove straight into the side of one of the guard ships, taking it out of the fight forever. That left Valand's ship, his flagship, alone, charging the Eternal Fist. His voice came through one last time, across every channel. "For those who came to us as refugees, for those who chose to keep us safe." His ship struck the Eternal Fist at full speed, exactly at the point where the command bridge was located. The explosion was beautiful and terrible. For a moment, space itself seemed to hold still. When the flash cleared, the Eternal Fist was broken in half. The front section was spinning away, dead. The back section was trying to retreat, its engines damaged, its command structure gone. I opened the fleet channel. All ships, the High Commander is gone, hit them with everything. This is the moment, this is the end of this fight. What happened next was something no one expected. The Dominion fleet, without its command ship, without its High Commander, began to panic. Their formation broke. Their ships started firing wildly, some even at each other. Coalition ships poured into the gaps, tearing them apart. Within an hour, the armada was shattered. Within 2 hours, the survivors were fleeing. We won. We lost almost 100 ships. 8,000 beings from 20 different species had given their lives in the battle. Valand was gone. Half of his Mirn people were gone. Mars had been struck by falling debris in several places. A portion of the Valith sanctuary city had been damaged, though the children had been safely evacuated. But the Dominion was broken. The next days were a blur. We gathered the survivors. We helped the wounded. We took stock of what we had lost. We also received messages, dozens of them, hundreds of them, from species all across the galaxy. Species that had been hiding. Species that had been broken. Species that had given up hope. They were rising, everywhere. The Dominion had lost its High Commander, its flagship, its best fleet. Rebellions broke out on 100 occupied worlds within days. The news spread like wildfire. The Korvaxi were not unbeatable. The galaxy could be free again. A month after the battle, I stood on that same Mars balcony with Thesira. The red sun was setting just like before, but so much had changed. The city was bigger now. More species lived there. Children played in the gardens, children of 14 different species, running together and learning each other's languages. Captain, Thesira said quietly, "Alina, may I call you that now? You have earned that right 100 times, my friend." She smiled. "Alina, in the long histories of the galaxy, humans will be remembered for this day, for what your people did. I want to ask you something. What do you hope they will remember? If you could choose your story, what would it be?" I thought about it for a long time. I thought about the hole in space above my ship. I thought about her small hand in mine. I thought about Shaw and Valand and Polly Brooks and Henry and Daniel and all the others who had given everything. I thought about Martin Shaw, who had enlisted as soon as he was old enough and was now flying patrols out past Jupiter. I thought about the 24 species who had stood with us, and the hundreds of species who were now rising up across the galaxy. I thought about what it had all been for. "I hope," I said slowly, "that we are remembered as the ones who opened the door." The door. When the Valith fell through that hole in space, they thought they had made a terrible mistake. They had come to the wrong place, to primitive species, to a closed door, but we opened it. We let them in. And when we did, the galaxy started to change. Other species came to our door. Then they opened their own doors to each other. The door we opened was not just for the Valith. It was for everyone who had forgotten they could trust again. I turned to her. "Thesira, tell the histories this. Tell them that humans were not wise, we were not strong, we were not great. But when someone came to our door, broken and afraid and running, we looked at them and said yes. We said, 'Come inside.' We said, 'We will keep you safe.' And we meant it, even when it cost us everything." She was crying. She took my hand and held it, her small fingers warm against mine, the same way she had held my hand on the first day. "Alina," she whispered, "your species has done something the galaxy did not know it needed. You have made kindness strong again." We stood there for a long time, watching the sun set over a city full of refugees who were no longer refugees. They were citizens. They were neighbors. They were friends. They were home. Somewhere above us, in orbit, Martin Shaw was flying his patrol. Somewhere further out, the reforming galaxy was learning to be free again. Somewhere in the archives of 24 species, the story of what had happened here was being written. They came as refugees by accident. Humans chose to keep them safe. And everything changed.